morning, everyone. There we go. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jeff Shaman, and I am the interim dean of the Climate School here at Columbia University. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here. I'm pleased to see this exciting event, the INNOV-EAT expedition, trailblazing, failing, and setting sail, a quest for food systems innovations. I would like to thank, on behalf of the university, our co-hosts, Clim-Eat, the Bezos Earth Fund, EAT Foundation, the Museum of Failure, and BEAR, for putting together what I know is going to be a really exciting event that you're all going to participate in today. I think we're all drawn together for a reason that we all understand and know well, that our food systems are under threat. Last decades have seen increases in food production, but these gains have not been evenly shared throughout the planet. Many go hungry, and even more cannot afford a healthy diet. According to some recent estimates, 3 billion people cannot afford that healthy diet. So food systems transformation presents a great opportunity and a clear entry point for addressing numerous health, environmental, and socioeconomic challenges. Innovations in food systems offer some of the solutions to support that transformation. And this event will explore groundbreaking approaches to transform global food systems. At the Columbia Climate School, food systems are one of our strategic priorities. Our new faculty member, Jess Fanzo, who you'll hear from today, is leading the school's food systems initiative. As a school, I also have to say I'm really pleased, and I think we'll probably see a few more of them later in the day when it's not quite so early, that so many of our students and students from other places could participate in the event. I hope that the day proves really inspiring, empowering, and moves them forward ideologically in how they want to embrace this field, including innovation and the move towards sustainable food systems. So I thank you for coming here and gathering for this really important Climate Week event. I hope you have a wonderful time and it's an enriching experience. And lastly, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Danush. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Danish, so I'm the founder of Clim-Eat. We're one of the partners hosting this event today. Do you know about Clim-Eat? How many of you know? If you know, raise your hand. Yeah, okay, that's good. I'm really happy because I founded this organization 628 days ago. So it's my baby, and I'm glad that so many people know about it. It always surprises me. So I started Clim-Eat. It's a think and do tank for food and climate, and we're partnering with Columbia University from the day we were launched. So really happy to be here. And we will be working for 2,658 days more. So I make every day count. So we close in 2030. That's the vision behind Clim-Eat. But I'm not here to talk more about Clim-Eat, but about what are we here for today. So there is one key element that's about innovation. We're going to share with you what are the key new innovations which are emerging, which can address food systems and climate challenges. That's one. But I often think, the solution to climate change is not necessarily only in innovation. It's in the culture. I say that culture change is the answer to climate change. So we also want to really delve into what's holding us back in our culture. And we want to have honest conversations about failing, So I want to start by asking you, if you have failed in anything in your professional life, could you please stand up? Okay. I really admire those people who have not failed. You're doing excellent. Don't sit, keep standing. So we're doing this event in partnership with the Museum of Failures, because we really want to talk about failures, and outside you'll see many inspiring reasons why you should fail. Now, if you think that failing has been good for you in your professional development, in your organizations, keep standing. If you think it was bad for you, sit. It's good. So you already have the culture for failing. So next, would you feel open talking about failures to your supervisors, to your funders? If you think you are comfortable doing that, keep standing. If not, keep sitting. Wow. This is amazing. This was not the answer that I expected. So maybe we can cancel the first session, Rita. But great. But then we need to convince more people, please sit down, that we can be open about failures. And the first session is really about embracing that. So you don't need me to convince you. So I'm a bit redundant here. So as part of my PhD, I studied failure management, and I looked into different sectors. Like in ICT, they're actively learning from failure. In mechanical engineering, they're learning from failure. But I felt I was working in agriculture, and not many people wanted to talk because we use development money, you see, and we can't report these things. So we want to change that. And for that, we have our guest of honor today. Yes, please come on, Chris. Chris Hamill.
Good morning.
Please take a seat, or you want to stand?
As you wish, I'm in your house.
Please take a seat.
Thank you.
So Chris is with the COP28 presidency. He's leading everything food systems. And the COP28 president has also said about embracing failure. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here, Danish. Yeah, I would say in general, ambition and the flip side of that coin, failure, is a key part of the young culture within the UAE, which is only 50 years old. And I think it's sort of in the ethos, if you will, of leadership there, that to do bold things, a lot of times they don't work. But to be able to back that culture and support it, there's a strong sense of national identity wrapped up in that, I'd say.
What are those bold things you will be doing at COP28 on food?
So, forgive me, some of us have been making the circuit all week, so some of you already know my answer. But for those of you who don't, Andy, I think, really said it well. Andy Jarvis in the front row here, for those of you who know him, for the Bezos Earth Fund, really said it well yesterday, which is you can't say the F word in climate. And by that, he means food or food systems. Agriculture just recently made it into the climate agenda. And over the last 2 years, COP26, and then with what you were able to bring to the table at COP27, we started having this discussion on the margins within civil society about food systems. COP28, our leadership has identified 3 flagship domains: energy, finance, and food is the third. Having governments talk about food systems, acknowledging that it exists as a system, that it needs to transition and change as a system, is a revolution, frankly, in the space. That's what we're trying to accomplish across a couple different pillars of work. So that's very bold, I can tell you, as a person in the maelstrom of this, trying to make it happen. Mm-hmm. It's really ambitious. And this may be, in fact, my biggest professional failure. It's certainly my most visible one in front of the whole world, trying to make this happen.
Yeah.
But I'm trying.
That's great, but it's also great that you're open to embracing failure. I saw you were standing when you had failures, you acknowledged failures, you talked about it. Can you tell us one personal failure?
So one I've been thinking about over the last 12 months of doing this work. When I was a bit younger, in the middle of my development career, I was sent to Western Pakistan, to Balochistan, to participate in a project design. With communities, community-based development approach. We had spent a lot of time investing, meeting with the communities, sitting with them, hearing what their needs were. We had already been given the mandate to develop that within a certain context, so certain kinds of agricultural development approaches or topics. But what we heard from one community or one group of women was that all they wanted was a road to be built. Because if the road was built, they would be able to get to the midwife faster to be able to give birth to children, because they were losing a lot of women in childbirth. And so I took that, and as a young professional, that was my key insight. Don't forget about the drip irrigation or whatever we think they need. What they need is this road. And I wasn't able to get that across the line. I wasn't able to bang the drum enough through the mechanics of a bureaucracy to be able to get, 2 million carved out to be able to make that happen. And that sits with me still 15 years later. Yeah. And as I do a 12-month circuit of essentially consultations in countries and cities, with different constituents, I'm reminded of that consultation process I had where I got the insight, but then I wasn't able to convert it. So in a way, for me, this is kind of I view this whole experience as my graduation. Can I achieve it this time around on a much different scale? And the stakes aren't as high in some ways, and in others they're higher. I don't know, but I'm trying.
Yeah. So some of the quotes, if you look at it, it's not about just failing for no reason. It's about failing intelligently, So how are you applying these lessons, Chris? You're thinking about it, yes, in the whole process. So how are you making this fail-proof?
Fail-proof. I don't know if there is a fail-proof. I guess the strategy that I'm going for is what I didn't do then. I relied too much on the system alone to help me. If I raise it, it will change. It's a fair ask. It's not too much money. But the reality is when the system is dysfunctional, it's not enough. You have to try to break the system or go above the system. So one of the things we're trying to do is to go all the way to the top to heads of state, to get a direct statement from them that can then be used to essentially hold them to account, to move them along this process. So we're not just working in the machinery at the technical level, we're hitting it from the very top.
Thanks, Chris. That's really inspiring. I hope you found that inspiring as well. Having this open conversation and this way of working, I think that can make the change. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just to say thank you for listening to me. Thank you for those of you who have been consulting with us over the last year. And I hope to welcome you to Dubai in a few months. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, for being here. So Chris has a very busy schedule. You're speaking at like 10 events today?
Yeah, today's a light day.
Yeah.
5 days. Five
Thanks
months.
for making the time and joining us. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. So I just wanted to, it was interesting. In Clim-Eat, we are always trying to fail, We were called like the organization designed to fail. Our strategy is try and take the big risks that not many people are willing to take. If we fail, that's okay. If we succeed, it can be really big. So that's kind of what we're doing. So I would just like to ask for a small video on the work that we're doing in Clim-Eat. Can we play this?
Hi there, it's Clim-Eat. We've got a crisis out of hand. The clock is ticking and time is running out. How are we to achieve the SDG targets under climate change? Existential threats collide. Environmental breakdown meets food systems failure. Global food systems have lost resilience. Hunger, malnutrition, rising food prices. Not the future we want, right? Eyes on our plates. We've set out a roadmap to change the game by 2030. Together, we rise to the challenge. Let's shape the future of food.
Okay, so that's, thank you. That's a little bit what we've been learning in the last 628 days. So if you would like to know more, come and ask me. But essentially, we are looking for partners who can partner with us in this journey. So we set sail today, but we're sailing for the next 7 years. So we'd like to sail with you. But that was a bit grim also. So I want to turn to the next speaker, Jess Fansel, Professor of Climate and Food here at Columbia University, who's been our host and the most amazing partner ever, to actually give us the opportunities and the positive messages, Jess.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Danish. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to not be totally uplifting, Danish. I'm going to talk about an epic global failure, but I think it's important to note that how's that for a picker-upper? But out of failure, you can't lose hope. And hope is not necessarily the belief that everything was, is, and will be okay. But it is the possibility. It's the possibility to act. And I think we can't lose that. when we see what I'm about to present. I think we all know here in this room, we are in pretty catastrophic climate breakdown. The evidence is quite clear. The blue is showing you some of the climate trends that we see, the greenhouse gases on top, escalating and rising with increased pace in the last couple of years, but other environmental degradation, whether it's biosphere degradation, ocean acidification, forest deforestation. But the orange is showing you us and how important we are in this change. Everything that we do, the Anthropocene, is inducing more climate variability and more climate change. The way we are living our lives and our use of resources is significantly contributing. Now, climate is having a big impact on food. When we look at long-term projections, we see that yields of crops, certain crops will decline, particularly in the southern latitudes, which is not great for a place that's often struck with hunger. You can see that in red, but there's some areas where there'll be more yields of foods depending on where we are and the type of crop. We also know that certain crops under more greenhouse gas emissions will have impacts on the nutritional quality of those crops. We also know that foods are very susceptible to shocks. If this ever comes up, here we go. This is showing you the frequency of shocks, be it geopolitical, climate, extreme weather events, poor management, geopolitics. These shocks are all hitting crops, livestock, fisheries, and aquaculture, with the darker colors being more frequent shocks around the world. So food systems are really struggling, and we are experiencing, and we see this very much right now, the visceral impacts of variability and extreme weather events. Just think of the Greek fires, the Canadian fires, the Maui fires, flooding in India, flooding in Vermont, heat waves around the world, in the Horn of Africa and southern part of the United States. Are we ready for these extreme events? We know that these extreme events will put many more people at risk for the inability to access food and water. So we need to start thinking about near-term action. At the same time, food is an instigator of climate variability and climate change. We know that food systems globally are responsible for about 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions. That's why it shocks me it's not in the negotiating table at COP. And that's the way we are managing our systems, be it land use change, livestock, management of pastures, you name it. We are having profound effects on greenhouse gases, as well as a lot of environmental degradation. It's fresh water resources and significant deforestation and biodiversity loss. And there's 6 countries that are emitting about half of the greenhouse gases coming from their food systems. The wonderful United States of America being one. China, Brazil, India, Indonesia, the EU. These countries have to step up, and we need to hold them to account to do that. And you know, the problem is that we, people, our global citizenry are suffering under these consequences. We already had a massive burden of malnutrition. Dean Shaman talked about 3 billion people can't access a healthy diet. These statistics across nutrition are actually worsening. We've made strides on undernutrition, but not near enough. Overweight, obesity, diet-related NCDs or non-communicable diseases, and food insecurity is rising. All of these numbers should be going down. We know how to deal with this, but they're going in the wrong direction. And the question is why? And when we think about taking a food systems approach and to stay below the 1.5 degree target for Paris, which we are far off, we need to take a whole systems approach. It's not just changing diets, just moving towards a plant-based diets. We need to think about how we manage our food systems, how we manage the agriculture and the ecosystems that serve that agriculture. We need to really reduce food loss and waste across the entire system. And we need to think about improving yields in some places, like Africa becoming a breadbasket. and moving away from depending on a couple of countries who happen to go to war and upend the global food system. So we need to be thinking about other solutions. And these are my thoughts. So how do we get it right? And this is my final slide. As scientists and as researchers, of course, I'm going to advocate for this always. We need evidence, and we need to continue to generate evidence and be sure that it's used and it's useful for policymakers. We can't wait for policymakers to sit at our table. We have to sit at the table that they set. We have to structure our collaborations that hold each other to account. There's been a lot of talk about collaborations this week at these side events. Are they making a difference? How do we hold ourselves to account to make a difference? We have to endorse non-sclerotic, this is my terminology, political action and environments. Our governments are not doing enough, and we need all of us in the room to create a revolution about holding our governments to account. They are way too slow, they're way too sclerotic, they're way too hesitant. We need to regulate and penalize companies or governments who are doing transgressions across public health and environment. We need to start holding them to account. We need to foster creativity and innovation. There's a lot in this room. I know a lot of people who are thinking really creatively and innovatively out of the box. We really need those voices in the room. You shouldn't have me as the old lady standing up here. We can't muffle and muzzle advocates in civil society. If people are fighting the good fight for climate change, they can't be imprisoned, they can't be muffled or muzzled. We need to invest, not enough in food, nowhere near enough. In nutrition, it's a rounding error of the overseas development assistance. We just don't have enough investment. We need to learn from our mistakes, remember the history of our failures. There's been many, but as Danusha says, we can learn from that, but we need to remember history, learn our history. And we don't need to waste time tinkering. We got to make big, bold changes, and I think we can all do it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jess. That was really nice. That really nicely sets the scene for today. But I want to pick up a few things that you said. That map you showed with all the red areas in red, that was a bit scary. And a lot of that red was in Africa. And you also mentioned Africa needs to be a breadbasket, and how do we foster that with more innovation, investment. You also talk about collaboration, and that's kind of where we will go with the next speakers. So maybe I will introduce you now, Mildred Nadapita from Bayer. She heads public affairs for Bayer in Africa. And as Jess mentioned, we need to find better models of collaboration with the private sector. So we always talk about it, but how do we actually do it? So over to you, Mildred.
Thank you, Danish. Thank you. And Jessica and I were having a side chat. I think we kind of talked about what you just showed now. So it's glad to have kindred spirits in the room. Yes, good morning. Good morning, can you hear me? Super, it's a great day to be here. Thank you so much for having us. I think the Dean stepped out, but I had mentioned our gratitude just being here today and joining this great event. So my name is Mildred Nadapita. I work for Bayer. I am based out of our Nairobi office. I head our public affairs, science and sustainability for Africa with extended roles into the Middle East. Working in Africa and really witnessing some of the challenges that we have on the continent is, for me, the basis for work. It's the passion that drives me every single day. The challenges we see, whether it's for African farmers with the effect of climate change, the shocks that we're seeing with our food systems. We don't have a resilient food system, let's say that. Whether it's access to healthcare. You mentioned the example in Pakistan of women having access to safe and affordable, I think, birth centers. There are many challenges, but as a company, I think we see these challenges as opportunities. Climate change is real, And farmers in Africa are suffering, I think, the most because they don't have access to innovation. A lot of knowledge gaps exist. A lot of capacity is lacking. And if we added layers to that, access to financing, which is a key driver for agricultural growth, is still lacking in many communities in Africa. When we internally as a company, we look at solutions that can help drive innovation and mitigate the risks of climate change in agriculture especially, we think that it has, yes, definitely be available. It has to be accessible for people. It has to be affordable, but it has also to be inclusive. Women in Africa and around the world bear the biggest brunt of climate change. In Africa, smallholder farmers manage, I would say, about 80% of our food needs on the continent. Are we thinking about them? How inclusive are we in bringing tailored solutions to sometimes people in communities that are not as educated, that do not have access to infrastructure? We need to think more inclusive in the solutions that we bring for agriculture, but also for climate change. As a company, we're excited to be a leader, really, in ensuring that the voices of smallholder farmers, not only in Africa, but across the world, that their voices and their needs are being made. That the innovations that we build and the technologies that we bring makes a difference in their daily lives, in livelihood, and in how they're also fighting the brunt of climate change. And for me, this is the biggest honor in my work. Like I said earlier, it's the passion that drives me. That innovation, technology, science, fact-based driven approaches can make a difference in the lives of communities across Africa. We have, as a company, been working, I think, since the beginning with Clim-Eat. You do a fantastic job. And our collaboration aims really to harness the strength of both organizations in ensuring that we bring the tailored solutions that farmers and communities need to accelerate climate action in food systems, ensuring that we're building resilient food systems, especially in Africa. We are currently working on a groundbreaking project, I would say, in Kenya that would allow us to gather insights and help us to implement climate action that would be at the grassroots level, regional level, and hopefully we're able to bring at scale. Leading up to the Climate Ambition Summit convened by the UN Secretary General, Biocrop Science and Clim-Eat will also organize a joint event that will help us articulate the role of food systems and innovation. And I think it's important that we begin to see the F in climate conversations, that it is necessary and it's important for us. And we will be there to highlight the role and the very important role that agriculture can play when we talk about innovation. Our joint efforts, like I said, will aim to build a movement in support of ambitious climate action in food systems, this leading to COP28. This will include strategic communications and outreach efforts aligned with the INNOV-EAT campaign that is run by Clim-Eat. Our goal really is to emphasize the role of game-changing innovations that can deliver benefits for food, but also for climate. At Bayer, our focus is on adaptable solutions rather than a uniformed approach. Together with our partners, we want to ensure that we're working diligently to make innovation in food systems possible, therefore protecting nature through innovation, but also protecting food. Just to give a couple of examples of some of the work that we have done that has allowed innovation to bring significant change in productivity for smallholder farmers. One example I will give is a project that has been going on now for almost 10 years, and hence the need for partnerships, that we need to work together to get these things done. It's called the Tela Maize Project. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Tela Wema project in Africa. Anybody? Good, I see hands. Super. The idea behind the Tela project was Bayer really contributing without any royalty a trait of some of our maize seeds to research organizations in Africa, working together with partners like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, USAID, CIMMYT. It's really an ecosystem approach, ensuring that we're bringing these technologies into the hands of farmers. But these varieties are drought resistant, and in some cases, varieties that also resist some of the borer pests that disrupt agricultural production for maize in farmers. And what we have learned through Tela is that it has helped to build a regulatory framework for countries that have adopted this technology. It is helping to build the environment that would allow for farmers to access the same technologies that, let's say, a farmer in Iowa has. That same technology is available in the hands of farmers. It will help them to increase productivity, hence having that ripple effect on their lives and their livelihoods. Again, I repeat, 80% of Africa's food is grown by smallholder farmers. They will not be able to pivot to that level of productivity that is not dependent on countries or continents outside of Africa without innovation and technology. We have an opportunity, I believe, today to build that future for Africa that is responsible also to the environment, that is responsible to the climate. One last example. We as a company are not only an agriculture company, so we do have an opportunity, and I always say that nexus between food security and healthcare. We have a nutrition gap initiative that we're working with farmers in sub-Saharan Africa and in other parts of the world, but specifically in Africa, ensuring that we're not only talking about calorific deficiencies when we talk food security, that we're also thinking that it has to be balanced. It's not just about giving access to corn or maize or cassava or wheat, but are we thinking also protein-based diets? Are we getting our beans and pulses into the hands of farmers? Are we getting the right technologies that can help mitigate the risks for food security, but also the nutritional gaps that we see on the continent? Bayer and Clim-Eat are on this together. We're on this boat. We set sail, not only from today, but into the future, to ensure that we bring those transformative changes to climate-related challenges that we're having, especially within our food systems. And I really plead and hope that we have partners here that will join with Clim-Eat, the great work that they're doing, that together we can bring at scale some of the changes that smallholder farmers need across to ensure that we have healthy societies that are really the bedrock of any prosperous society. On this note, I think I will say thank you. My time is done, but it was really an honor.
Thanks, Mildred. Thanks, Mildred, for those remarks. And what I could see is that there was a lot of things in common between what Mildred said and what Chris said and Jess said, the need for more inclusion, ways of collaboration. I often find in many of the discussions we saw private sector, but there are we need to find better ways of working with the private sector if we are serious about this. So really great to have your insights and also the perspectives in Africa coming from the county level in Kenya as well. So thanks for enriching this conversation. Thank you. So now we are on to the next session. I know most of you have been waiting for this. It's got a lot of interest on social media, and I don't know, I'm going to fall short introducing this. So I would like to ask AI to introduce the Game Master.
welcome to the most thrilling showdown of the year. Get ready to witness innovation like never before. As we present the Innovation Showdown at the INNOV-EAT expedition to discover the best bets innovation in food systems. Let me introduce you to our host. With his boundless energy, infectious enthusiasm, and a passion for all things innovative, he's your ultimate guide to the future of food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Andy Jarvis.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Innovation Showdown. Woo! This is the most fantastic, the most foodie, the most F-word full, forward-looking game show of New York Climate Week. It's also the only one. It's wonderful to be here tonight with you. We are going to go through an amazing journey of the innovations that are going to give us hope, and they're going to show us what can be done in the food system, what can be done to transform it. We have an amazing set of contestants here in front, coming up today. They're dynamic. They've got all the answers for what innovation looks like. And they're going to give you specifics. You're going to go home talking about these things to your family, to your friends. You'll spend the next year thinking about them. We're also going to have plenty of fails. Yes, not everyone can win. Some of these innovations will succeed, and there'll be finalists in this, but others are going to get the chop. Yes, today is about fail as well on some of these innovations. So without further ado, let's get going. What are we going to be doing today? We're going to be talking about innovations in 3 domains for the future of food. We're going to be talking about plant nutrition. What is the future of plant nutrition on the planet? Sustainable livestock. What needs to happen to make livestock more sustainable? And next generation crops. What's the future of crops on the planet? Next up. So, I'm going to dive into the rounds. Let me get my microphone. Here we go. Our first round is going to go into each of these domains. So, the Innovation Showcase. Round 1 is plant nutrition. And we would like to invite our 3 plant nutrition innovators, the innovation wizards, to the stage. So we're going to hear about these 3 things. Electrochemical ammonia synthesis. That sounds painful. Green hydrogen-based ammonia. And we're going to hear about engineered microbial fertilizer. And so let's go through our contestants. What's your name?
Varun. Nice to meet everyone.
Okay, this is Varun. What's your favorite food?
I got to say paneer.
Oh, who likes paneer? Oh, pretty good. You're winning so far. That's going good. Okay, so you're going to have 2 minutes to tell this audience what is electrochemical ammonia synthesis. Why are you so excited about this? What is it going to do to solve this crisis? So I'm going to ask you, what's cooking?
Hopefully paneer later today.
You got 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Like Andy said, electrochemical ammonia synthesis. That's a lot of words. I know it's early in the morning, so I'm going to try to break it down for everyone. So ammonia is an incredibly useful part of our society today. 80% of it is used for fertilizer for feeding our entire planet. The other 20% is used for materials like plastics, dyes, other sorts of industrial materials. Now, the problem is ammonia production accounts for 2% of global greenhouse emissions. That's a lot of percent. And the reason is it's reliant on fossil fuels to create the ammonia. It's through a process called the Haber-Bosch process, which is incredibly fossil fuel intensive and has a lot of byproducts that are especially harmful for the communities that are around the production sites. So this is where the electrochemical part comes in. We're able, through new technology, to combine water, nitrogen, and electrochemical catalysts in order to produce the ammonia. So it's a cleaner system overall, and you can scale it up and down because it requires less space and less intensive materials. So you're able to put these production sites closer to farmers who need it or to factories that need it, reducing the amount of transportation costs and emissions from that. So this is a fairly newer technology, and it's hopefully going to become more cost effective given more funding from the IRA and bills like that. So very excited about this technology and looking forward to see what it can do in the future.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for Varun. Can you do better than that? What better than that? What's your name?
So. I'm Neely. Nice to meet everyone.
Favorite food?
A fresh fig.
A fresh fig. Lots of F's in that one. All right. Okay, you're going to have 2 minutes to tell us about green hydrogen-based ammonia. What's cooking?
Well, let's see, chef. So, is it possible to feed our ever-growing population while reducing agricultural's carbon footprint? Yes, by changing the way we make ammonia, or in our agricultural context, fertilizer. One main ingredient of ammonia, fertilizer, is hydrogen. So instead of using a hydrogen extracted from the Haber-Bosch process, which is a highly fossil fuel intense process, today's norm, let's use hydrogen derived from sustainable sources, like the hydrogen derived from the electrolysis of water. So what does this innovation actually look like? Pro. It reduces agricultural's footprint multiple ways. The ammonia's footprint will reduce by up to 96% by using green hydrogen. And also, general energy consumption will also decrease by moving away from these traditional processes. Con, there are high startup costs with new technology and skills which could trickle down to consumers. Pro, actually, studies show that green ammonia will be cost competitive with gray ammonia by 2030. Pro, con, it could disrupt our value chains, although it's putting more pressure on fossil fuel giants instead of the rest of the members of the value chain, like packaging, processing, and storing. Pro, ammonia-based fertilizers touch the entire agricultural world, so shifting production will have an enormous ripple effect. So it's a complex picture, but in our food systems, ammonia equals fertilizers. And it doesn't matter how we feel about fertilizers, the use of them isn't going anywhere, especially as growing environments are more volatile with climate change. So as the world is warming, technology that promotes food security cannot be abandoned. Green hydrogen-based ammonia is a net positive innovation that grows more efficient as we move to a sustainable future. Our first steps towards better is not what we do, but how we do it. Make fertilizer green.
Oh, round of applause. Round of applause for Neely. Wonderful. Okay, on to our third contestant.
Hi.
What's your name?
Abby J.
Abby J. And what is your favorite food?
I really like lemons.
Lemons.
Yeah.
Ooh, sour. All right. You got 2 minutes.
All right.
What are you going to tell us about? Engineered microbial fertilizer.
Engineered microbial fertilizer.
Goodness
Right
me.
here.
Goodness me. What is it then? What's cooking?
All right. Hi, Abby J here. Are you guys tired of synthetic fertilizers wreaking havoc on our Earth systems? Who supports biodiversity loss, the degradation of our soils and waters, and the pollution of our fresh water supplies? I sure don't, and I'm sure you guys don't either. Well, good news. Innovations in Food Systems presents Engineered Microbial Fertilizer. Our engineered microbial fertilizer has the potential to be a game changer, revolutionizing the way farmers fertilize our crops. Plants need nitrogen. Nitrogen is crucial to growing crops and feeding our growing global population. Unfortunately, our agricultural sectors turned to synthetic nitrogen fertilizer, whose excessive use contributed to the severe water pollution and soil degradation worldwide. These chemicals are expensive, in short supply, and a major contributor to climate change, as the process it takes to make them emits approximately 2% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So how do we change the way we deliver nitrogen to our crops? How do we sustainably feed our growing global population while maintaining the same crop yields? Engineered microbial fertilizer is how. Also known as genetically modified fertilizers, these living formulations of beneficial microbe strains enhance plant development. The microbes in these fertilizers are genetically edited, tailored for the specific needs of different plant species. For example, genetically engineered nitrogen-fixing microbes are adapted to form symbiotic relationships with our most popular food crops, allowing them to sustainably get the nutrients that they need to grow. This innovation will empower farmers to grow their crops in a more efficient and sustainable way, boosting farmer productivity and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, improving air quality and water quality in the process of their use. We need innovations that will address our drier global food system needs today, and engineered microbial fertilizer is the innovation that will lead the way.
Round of applause for Abby. I gave you 5 seconds there, okay? So that's the end of our plant nutrition round. It's not looking so good for synthetic fertilizer. Is anyone in that business around here? You don't have to put your hand up. Well, wonderful, wonderful innovation. So we're going to ask the plant nutrition contestants to take a seat. And we're moving on to sustainable livestock. Can we have our 3 innovation wizards? Round of applause, come on. We're gonna start over here. We're gonna hear about methane inhibiting feed additives. What's your name?
I'm Annabelle.
Annabelle, you'll find out shortly. This is actually, she's cheating, but you'll find out why in a minute. Annabelle, what's your favorite food?
I'll say fresh pasta.
Fresh pasta. As long as it's fresh with the F word, right? Lovely. Okay, you're going to have 2 minutes to tell us about methane inhibiting feed additives. What makes you excited about this?
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you. If you would have told me just a little bit ago that I'd be standing in front of all you to talk about cow burps today at the UN Climate Conference, I would have laughed in disbelief. Yet here we are, and here we go. So as a lot of you guys probably know, ruminant animals like cattle and sheep have specialized stomachs that ferment their food. During the fermentation process, methane gets released, and that is why they burp and sometimes fart a lot of methane. It's not just some methane. This is a lot we're talking about. It's like 30% of all anthropogenic methane emissions globally that come from ruminant enteric methane emissions. Now, what if I told you that we have a very, very simple solution that can eliminate it entirely? It sounds too good to be true, right? Well, I introduce to you methane inhibiting feed additives, and I'm going to focus on especially red seaweed today. That is the most effective one we found so far. So if you add red seaweed in small proportions to your cow's or cattle's feed, it's going to neutralize the reaction that causes the methane production in their stomachs and prevent them from ever burping it out. Great. 30% of global methane emissions gone. Now, I did say it sounds a little too good to be true, and so far it is. So first of all, we haven't quite found a way to make it 100% effective yet, right? It reduces it. It doesn't completely eliminate it yet. And also, think about a world in which all cows need to eat seaweed. All cows in the middle of continents. Sounds a little bit impossible in terms of supply chains, but okay, that is something to figure out later. With the right funding and the right support, we can build transition pathways to figure out how we can get this to happen, what other additives might be more effective in achieving this, and that way we can get cows to stop burping without any impact on their own health. There might be some uncertainties with how it affects their productivity, but that's all something we can figure out with some more research and development. Thank you for listening.
Big round of applause, Annabelle. Thank you very much, Annabelle. Okay, over to here. What are we talking about here? Insect farming for feed. We are in the sustainable livestock sector, right? Okay, good. All right, what's your name?
Pedro.
Pedro. And what's your favorite food?
Rice and beans.
Is that allowed? That's rice. 2 foods, is it? We'll allow it. Rice and beans. All right, lovely. Okay, so you're going to have 2 minutes to tell us about insect farming for feeds.
Awesome.
Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to take you on a nostalgic journey back to my childhood, where I watched this animated TV show about a superhero called Adam Ant. this tiny but mighty superhero defended society against any challenge brought its way. I can vividly remember now how his little antennas popped up and his iconic catchphrase, "Against any danger, there's adamant." Well, now fast forward to today, where I stand before you with an innovation that's just as mighty, as tiny, but mightier in its impact. Insect farming for livestock feed. This innovation possesses the strength to not only fight climate change, but also reshape the way that we currently do our livestock farming. As Adam Ant so vividly demonstrated, insects are not to be underestimated. They contain a lot of nutrients and are high protein materials. They are strong and packed with incredible nutrients. So our innovation harnesses this strength, efficiently producing high protein livestock from these insects. These insects cultivate mainly from livestock manure or other organic waste, are extremely efficient, and require a low amount of water. Currently, our reliance on vast agricultural land and water usage for livestock feed is extremely inefficient, straining our environment, impacting land use, water availability, and other environmental issues. So this innovation I propose mitigates these strains, as these tiny superheroes are extremely efficient. Moreover, the solution is easily scalable. It can go from small-scale farms to large-scale operations by using only a fraction of the space. So just as Adamant was always ready to protect the environment, these insects are ready to optimize animal nutrition and help us fight climate change. Thank you.
Round of applause for Pedro. Wonderful. We're going to move on to our third and final contestant in sustainable livestock. What's your name?
Georgina.
Georgina. Okay, and your favorite food?
Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Who likes that? Oh, yes. Okay. All right. We're going to hear about cultivating algae with livestock waste. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chef. So, hi, everyone. I'm Georgina. I'll be presenting on cultivating microalgae using livestock waste to make nutrient-rich feed. I'd like to begin with a quick poll. Apart from hearing from Annabelle, how many of you have heard about just how bad cows are for the environment due to their methane production? Okay, so it's a very well-known fact that livestock waste contributes heavily to GHG emissions. And one way that we can reduce these emissions is by using microalgae to break down manure. So by feeding manure to microalgae in tanks and other integrated systems, we can prevent the manure from breaking down naturally and releasing methane into the environment. Instead, the microalgae will break down the manure and absorb its nutrients. It can then be harvested and processed into multiple end products, including nutrient-rich feed that can be fed back to the very same livestock that provided the waste in the first place. This innovation will require lots of funding from both private and public sources. It will also require new health and safety regulations, as well as an environmental program to educate consumers on the positive impacts and the safety of the waste recycling process. This innovation has a huge potential to have significant environmental impacts as it addresses many of the issues surrounding the livestock industry. One, it will reduce the amount of land that is necessary to produce livestock feed. Two, it could provide a potentially unlimited source of feed, which will improve food security dramatically. Three, it will reduce the pollution of the land and water in the surrounding environment. And most importantly, it will reduce GHG emissions. This is a truly circular and emissions-reducing innovation, and is certainly a sure bet. Thank you.
Round of applause for Georgina, and a big round of applause to our 3 contestants on sustainable livestock. Our third and final innovation area, next generation crops. Can we have the 3 contestants up, please, onto the stage? Woo! Okay, we're gonna stand over here. What's your name?
Joey.
Joey. And favorite food?
Eggplant and Parmesan.
Oh, you're my favorite so far. That's my weak spot there. All right, Joey, you're gonna tell us about shade tolerance in crops. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, chef. So I want to start off by talking about solar panels. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a food conference, not an energy one. But the solar panels that I'm talking about are very special ones. Instead of taking light and turning it into electricity, they take light and convert it into chemical energy and biomass. That's right, the solar panels I'm talking about are plant leaves. But what if I told you that they only harness about 1 to 2% of the solar energy that they hit and actually are able to convert it? What if we could instead change that so that they were turning 3, 4, maybe even 5% of the solar energy into useful biomass? Well, then we'd be creating shade-tolerant crops, crops that could still have the same level of yields with less sunlight. But what can we do with those? Well, for one, it can make vertical and indoor farming a lot more efficient. This is a massive industry that's been growing 10% year over year, but at the moment it uses a lot of carbon and is not very efficient. It also means that we could plant lower-lying cover crops below taller plants like wheat or corn and help prevent soil erosion and keep the valuable topsoil staying within the farm. And then finally, it also would open up a whole host of new opportunities. For example, agrivoltaics. Agrivoltaics are a very cool system where you put solar panels above crops. Now with traditional plantings, there could be reductions in yields by up to 50% with the reduced shade. But with shade-tolerant plants, there would be absolutely no reduction in yields or potentially even an increase while also generating electricity for the farm. Now, this innovation isn't perfect, and it would definitely involve GMO editing, and there are issues with implementation with that. And also, it will be difficult for farmers to adapt to the new light requirements of plants. But overall, the benefits definitely outweigh the costs. In order to deal with the threat of climate change, we're making our appliances, our vehicles, our buildings, and even our cities more efficient. So shouldn't we make our plants more efficient too? Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Round of applause for Joey and his shade-tolerant crops. Over here, to the middle. What do we got here? Who are we talking with? Your name?
I'm Maria. Hi, everyone.
Maria. Round of applause for Maria. Favorite food?
I would say sushi.
Oh, now you got competition as well. This group, I must admit, is doing the best here. Okay, so you're going to have 2 minutes. What are you telling us about perennial grain crops? All right, over to you. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So basil, strawberries, these are some examples of crops that are planted perennially. I mean, others are annual crops, and unfortunately, they can only be planted once a year. More than 3.5 million people worldwide eat rice on a daily basis. Rice, for example, is only planted once a year. For me, rice is part of my daily meal. Where I come from, the Dominican Republic, people eat rice with beans every single day, and we love it. Here in New York, rice costs around $7 per kilogram, which is actually a lot. And the price of rice is rising because there's a lot of demand. So yeah, 3.5 million people eat rice worldwide. That's why. And my solution for this enormous problem is growing more rice that is genetically modified, and the food crops should be genetically modified, but not just rice, of course, other food crops as well, that its supply needs to be increased substantially. The benefits of growing perennial food crops are far achieving compared to annual crops. The perennial food crops, they provide sustainable benefits such as CO2 sequestration in the soil, reduced soil and water erosion, and possibly even a higher nutritional value of the food. And it is guaranteed that the cost will decrease.
Round of applause for Maria. It's not looking good for annual crops, I can say that. All right, over to our final contestant. Stay up here, Maria, please. What's your name?
Amar. Nice to meet everyone.
All right, and your favorite food, first of all?
I love a good mango.
Oh, I just love this group of, this is definitely next generation crops, knows what is good. Okay, you've got 2 minutes. We're going to be talking about improved carbon sequestration. Tell us all about it. You got 2 minutes. What's cooking?
Thank you, Chef. So 30% of all the carbon dioxide emissions produced by human activities globally are actually sequestered/absorbed by plants, crops, and soil around the world. So my innovation focuses on genetically modifying crops so that they can start absorbing 30% more carbon dioxide than they're absorbing right now. And this is done by, of course, genetically modifying them to increase their photosynthetic capabilities. Now, why this matters and why this can work? This can have a global impact. Wherever crops are grown, in whichever country and geography, you can have crops that can have better carbon sequestration. Secondly, for farmers, this will only increase the cost marginally in the short run, but if done at scale, it will be no extra cost, and it will be no extra effort because they'll be growing the same crops that they've been growing, just that these crops sequester carbon better. And in fact, by tapping into carbon credits, the farmers will have a net financial benefit of doing it. However, like every other innovation, it could have potential downsides. First of all, a lot of research and development still needs to be done. That could be expensive, but you'll be happy to know that Chan and Zuckerberg Foundation recently gave $11 million to actually develop this technology. Secondly, there are cultures and countries where GMO-certified crops and food might be looked down upon a little bit, and it might be difficult to get consumer as well as policy support. So there's a lot of education and marketing that needs to be done in order to tackle that. But overall, because of its global appeal and the impact that this innovation can have, I'm confident that this can actually make agriculture a part of the solution and not a part of the climate problem. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Okay, so a round of applause for our 3 contestants on Next Generation Crops. Woohoo! Okay, there is no free lunch. This is where we move to the wisdom of crowds. So we've heard 9 fantastic contestants talk about their innovations. Wait a minute, I think you've got to go back one, just get people to, if you're not connected to the Wi-Fi, there's a free open Wi-Fi connection. If you're online, hopefully you already have that sorted out, but you can use this menti.com and that code to get online and start answering the questions that are coming. But please, no cheating. Let's go one by one through these questions so you don't advance until we advance on the screen, right? So stay with me, stay with me. Has everyone got that? It's still up there. All right, there we go. Okay, so first question here is, the most effective in addressing the environmental footprint from agriculture's reliance on traditional synthetic fertilizers in the long term. We have the 3 innovations. This is in plant nutrition. What is going to put synthetic fertilizer out of business? All right. And this is looking at the environmental footprint. We'll give it another 5 seconds, and then we're going to move on to the rest. We've got a few questions, so we'll work through these. All right, there we've got someone winning for sure. All right. Okay, next one. Here we go. Some people I see have already been moving ahead and voting before I said you could. All right, so we've got 94 votes, 100, they're still coming in. The most cost-effective and accessible in regards to increasing global availability to clean plant nutrition. All right, 130 votes, 134. We seem to have some nice results coming in there, and we have a winner. Okay, and we're going to move on to the next. So, next up, we're looking at sustainable livestock. So remember those 3 about sustainable livestock, putting cow burps into the past. We have, well, let's take 30 seconds to look through these. The most potential to realistically be implemented at scale on a global level. There's a lot of cows and there's a lot of animals out there. How do we reach scale with these innovations? Oh, this one's it's a tight one on this one. Remember, we're not voting for who had the best favorite food. We're voting here on the innovation. All right, that's been 30 seconds, and that's 150 people votes. Great. All right, let's move on. Next question. And people are still cheating. Look at that. 79 people have already voted on this one. Requires the least regulatory process for implementation. This is one of the challenges that we've been seeing in these areas on methane reduction and sustainable livestock. This one is tighter. It's a tough, oh, this is going to be a tough one. This one, it's tight. It's tight at the top. All right. We've hit 150. Let's move to the next one. Wisdom of crowds. This is now our third area, next generation crops. Do you like eggplant with parmesan, sushi, or mango? The largest cumulative positive impact, keeping in mind health, the environment, livelihoods, equity, and socio-cultural impacts. So we got shade tolerance in crops, perennial grain crops, improved carbon sequestration, and they're coming in still. We've hit 150 people. You're very good. Great audience here. All right, we've hit 150. Next one, last question. And people are still cheating. What's the question on this one? The most adaptable and likely to be accepted by all food system actors. I can see some differences forming on this one. The question is eliciting different answers. Fantastic. All right, and we're hitting 150 people. All right. Okay, we've got the votes in. Do we have someone totting all of this up in the background? Going to help me in a minute with the results? I hope so. So let's move into round 3. This is where the tension rises. We're going to vote for your best bet, innovation. And so, plant nutrition. These were the 2 questions that we had, right? These were the results. And what we're going to do is, I'm sorry, let's get all of our contestants up here, first of all. Let's get the 9 contestants. This is where it gets tense. And so this is where someone is going to get the chop. You're going to be chopped out of this game show. And so let's have a look at plant nutrition. We've got the results in. What we're looking for here is the F word, the fail. The one that didn't get selected by the audience. And we don't have drum rolls, do we? Can't we say AI? There we go. Drum roll. Plant nutrition. Who's going to get the chop? I'm sorry, it's green hydrogen-based ammonia. Neely, thank you so much for taking part. Okay, next up. Sustainable livestock. What have we got? Who's going to get the chop here? Oh my God, you're making me do maths. Oh, it's very tight in this one. It is very tight, but we do have a loser. Annabelle, you have got the chop. You may have a seat. Drum roll again, please. Drum roll for the next one. And final innovation area domain, next generation crops. What's it going to be? We have the results. Oh, goodness. It's clear cut. We have someone going to be getting the chop. I am sorry for perennial grain crops. Just for the sushi, I would have voted for that one. Right. Okay, so we have 6 contestants left. We're now into the final round. What's going to happen next? Huh? Okay. I'm getting told what needs to happen next. 1 second with the audience. This is where now we're going to go non-technological. Now you vote with your feet. So we're going to go through these innovations, and what we're going to do is the room is going to vote with your feet. And so you are going to stand up if you like if your innovation is one of these. You have to pick one. You can only stand once. Okay? So, what? Per domain, yes. Okay, it was all going so well, wasn't it? Okay, we're going to go into our first domain. We have over here our first domain, plant nutrition. Is there anything up there? No. Okay. I'm getting there with the program. I'm getting there. I'm going to be chopped in a second. Okay, so we have in plant nutrition, and I need the names of these things.
We can introduce
Oh, yeah, we can
it.
Okay, give them.
Save you some time. Electrochemical ammonia synthesis.
Okay, and wait a minute, we're going to do the voting. So, well, let's hear the two first.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Microbial, engineered microbial fertilizer.
So, do we believe in the electroshock one or the biological one? All right, so we're going to vote with our feet. Electroshocks, who believes in that one? Stand up if you believe in that one. Okay. I've got an AI bot behind me doing the numbers. Okay, if we get the microbial solution, stand up. Oh, we have a clear winner, Abby. You've been chopped, I'm afraid. Round of applause for microbial. Okay, next up, sustainable livestock. And so our two innovation finalists are?
Insects.
Insects.
Microalgae.
Microalgae. So who likes the insects? Who likes the microalgae? All right, we're going to go the votes. Insects, stand up. That's looking quite good. Microalgae. You got to do it again. Phil, I need your help. Microalgae. Insects.
No, they just make more noise. I go microalgae.
Microalgae wins. You've got the chop in a very close call there. And final area that we're looking at, next generation crops. And the two ideas are?
Carbon sequestration crops, and whoever stands get free mangoes.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay.
Shade tolerant crops.
Okay, let's go. The mangoes. Stand up if we're going for that one. Okay. That's going to be a tough one as well. Okay, over here. Do I have to say that you need to be silent? And Axel, I know that it's you. Phil. Okay, wait a minute. We're going to go.
Do we have a heat?
With Joey over here.
Yeah, I think shade tolerant.
Shade tolerant wins. You've been chopped.
Shamelessly biased, sorry.
So I think this is the point where we should have a prize, and we don't actually have one. But what I will say is there is no winners in this. This is the future of food. These are some of the options on the table. And I want to bring everyone back up just to say a huge thank you. These 9 innovation wizards, a few weeks ago, these 9 innovation wizards didn't really even probably know about some of the innovations, right? They're students from Columbia University who took the bold and incredibly ambitious idea of actually standing up here and defending and talking about these innovations. They've learned about them over the last few weeks, and they did an amazing job in 2 minutes to tell you why it is so exciting. So thank you to you. You're the bravest, boldest students around. I think we have the start of kind of 9 startups that are going to get formed as a result of this. So that is the end of today's innovation showtime. The game show's done, but this is just really the warm-up for what's coming up next. And what we're going to hear about next is where all of this came from. And so this was just a little glimpse of some of the innovations that are out there for the food system. And so I'm going to hand over into our next segment where we're going to hear about the food system tech dashboard.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and innovators of tomorrow, get ready to embark on a journey of discovery as we unveil our horizon scanning work, a vision that peers into the future of food systems. Today, we present some bold bets, potential innovations that possess the power to transform the very landscape of our food future in the domains of plant nutrition, sustainable livestock, and next-generation crops. Together, we're about to explore new horizons, embrace bold innovations, and pave the way for a sustainable food future. Please welcome Philip Thornton and Annabelle Rombach to guide us through this odyssey.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, you can see I was not one of the Columbia students. I, together with Phil, created this portal, did all the research, so I had a little bit more than a few weeks to learn all about it. But yeah, we'd like to introduce you to our official launch of the website. Now that we've explored some of our top bets for the future, we want to take it back to where this all came from, as Andy said. What created all of this? What was our process? And how do we land on this portal and what to include in it? So welcome. Let's go explore some bold bets together for the future of food on our expedition to find game changers in the food system.
Thanks, Annabelle. So why? I think we've had some very good ideas this morning about why we needed to do this. There's the urgent need to fix food systems, and there's all kinds of different innovations that we've heard about that might be able to help. This is really, the dashboard is part of a process, really. We're starting to look at what are some of these things. There are so much uncertainties involved in all of these things, but thinking about what might be suitable and what might be actually scalable in terms of bringing these things to fruition. And so the dashboard is really looking at the first two of these things. So what are the innovations themselves, and in what kind of context might they really be useful? So it's just these two parts of this longer process that the dashboard is able to look at today.
Yeah, so welcome to our innovation portal. I'll tell you guys a little bit about what it is, why it exists, and what it entails. So it's kind of a pilot project that we can continue building on and continue expanding as we go. It functions as an open access inventory, like a knowledge portal, showcasing our promising bold bet innovations in food systems across these three domains: future plant nutrition, sustainable livestock, and next generation crops. What made us choose these domains? Well, we wanted to focus first on reducing the agricultural footprint, so mostly heavy on reducing emissions. And these three were good domains to get started with that, although we may expand more in the future. The innovations that we chose focus mostly on a larger time frame, 20 to 30 years into the future. They really are like the game-changing innovations that have a lot of uncertainties with them too. So some of them may succeed, some of them may not. Some of it is up to you, of course, as well. And so now I'm going to tell you guys a bit about our approach. So 6 months ago, we got given the prompt to, all right, go find these innovations. Where do you even start? The type of innovations we're interested in don't really exist yet in literature. There might be a few studies on the technologies that they use, but we really had no idea where to start. So we scoured and scoured through current literature, news outlets, science media. We chatted to a lot of our colleagues, some of which you are here today, including industry leaders, scientists, and in general, colleagues in the field to talk about what's out there, what's worth paying attention to, and that led to this monster of a mind map. As you can see, it was a whole iceberg. When you start digging, you find more and more and more, and the way we approached it is just to go top down to organize. We had our domains, we identified a few important problems that can lead to the reduction of agricultural footprint in these domains, and we went from there to organize it based on the general field, the methodologies, and the specific technologies.
The second step in the process was to use the same sort of characterization format for each of these innovations. just so that we'd have a basis for comparing and contrasting. You'll see some of these in a minute, but things around very simple description of what the actual technology is, whether its intensity of impact is likely to be large or not. Is it ready, or is it still somebody's idea, or is it actually being in the stage of being piloted, and so on and so forth. And particularly important, the impacts on a whole range of different variables: human health, livelihoods, equity, environment, and socio-cultural considerations. Then the third step is, in the process that we undertook, we know very well that technology, if it's going to go anywhere, if it's going to be adopted at scale, if it's really going to have an impact on the food system, it needs accelerators. Even very good technology may just not get taken up for all kinds of reasons. And so we use this framework that was developed by Mario Herrera and colleagues at Cornell, that then seeks to look at these 8 accelerators, or things that can really help in innovation. For example, this idea that's been mentioned already, the genetic modification. In some societies, that's not acceptable. And so what then might you need to do if you're going to change the discourse around particular technologies? You're going to need financing methods. You're probably going to need new regulatory frameworks for some of these things. So those kinds of things, and we took a stab at trying to assess how important these different accelerators would be for each of the different innovations.
Right, so welcome to our website. Welcome to Food Systems Tech. Let me quickly walk you through. So this is our homepage, and here you can read a brief description about what the project is, what its purposes is and its intent, and right away you can explore your innovations. You can search innovations by name, filter them by domain, or just browse through on our carousel. Then when you go click on a specific innovation, you get taken to its own page. Here we describe, as Phil mentioned, all the characterization formats. So we have brief description, the problem. We kind of just present the current state of it, the potential that it has, and what needs to happen to get it to success. We also identify multiple impacts. We look at environmental, human health, equity, socioeconomic, and livelihood impacts. And then we also talk a little bit about, okay, what could be some unintended consequences? What other technology does it need to be successful? Or what could it be bundled with to be successful? And we also briefly explore investment trends and key players in the field. We look at some quantitative studies when they exist. Of course, literature is very sparse on these futuristic technologies. And then, as Phil mentioned, we rate the accelerator scores, what we believe to be necessary, and we describe it. There's also a section for updates. We intend for this inventory to be a rolling inventory. So there's space to update if there's any cool developments, if there's any prototypes that work, if there's any really good news, we're going to share that as well. So definitely stay in tune with the website.
So very much so, as we launch this website, this is very much interactive, and we hope to keep this as a rolling inventory. And then also, we've heard there are other initiatives which are dealing very much in this space, so ways in which we can maximize synergies with these other initiatives. And just before we launch, we'd like to say thank you to a whole host of people who have been really instrumental in helping us to actually undertake this work, because we wouldn't have been able to do it without all that input. So, Annabelle, we're going to launch the website.
I think we're going to launch the big red button. 3,
Are you ready?
2,
1, go!
All right.
Whoa, it's there!
Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for the Bezos Earth Fund for funding this project. This was a really fun project, and I hope it can be useful for many. And also to Mario, who's here. And as Philip mentioned, we were building on the work that you've done in Wild Futures, and you'll hear more about that in the afternoon from Mario himself, and a lot of other contributors and support as well. So thanks for supporting us. You may have seen in the Clim-Eat slides, we had this 3 phases of INNOV-EAT, Implement-EAT, and Impact-EAT. So this is INNOV-EAT expedition, right? So we've been looking around for innovations. I think we looked at over 300 to come to this subset. Now what we want to get going is the implementation. How can we actually work with partners in countries, address some of the real challenges to implement these best bets, because we know that what works, but how do we get it to scale? So that's the next question, and we hope to partner with you. And I think to do that, what's important is to also embrace this culture of failing and being bold and innovative, and that's something we are looking for. So I just hope this was a useful start to the day. We're going to have 2 more sessions, and I hope all of you will stay on for that. It gets more interesting from here. So thank you. And yeah, so the practical aspects, so we'll have coffee served here in the foyer and also downstairs, so you can head outside for the coffee. And while you're there, we have some exhibits from the Museum of Failure, who's one of our partners, which shows what's the power of failure, so we really need to embrace that. And I'd like to ask everybody to come back here at 11:30 for the next session, which is actually about scaling up these innovations. So looking to have you back then. And until then, you can network.